Hey guys, it's Chase. Welcome back to a new video. So I was debating for a while on what I wanted the next video to be, and since the device that we're going to do today came in, I was like, okay, we're going to do this one. This is an Xbox One X that came in that doesn't have video. It turns on but has no display. So this can be several different issues, so I'm going to cover them today in this video, and let's get to it. So the first thing I always do is I take a look at the HDMI connector, and it looks completely fine. It looks exactly like you would imagine an HDMI connector. The black piece that the cable actually makes contact with is not like pushed in. The main issues that I usually see with these is like drop damage, like if the Xbox has the cable in it and it gets dropped and fractures like the port and like damages like all the traces. I've seen that happen. The hard drive could be, a failure, and then the HDMI redriver IC is probably the most common, but that's what it'll be as far as the no video goes. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull this motherboard out and test the hard drive, and I will let you guys know where I'm at. Alright, so real quick, I'm gonna go ahead and test this hard drive. Now I have a SATA hard drive dock that plugs in through either USB or eSATA. I have mine hooked up to eSATA. And basically you can just plug the hard drive right in, turn it on, and then we're going to go ahead and set up the drive to show up on the PC, and then we're going to run a hard drive test program called Crystal Disk Info, and it's going to tell us whether or not our hard drive is bad using the smart data from the drive. Alright, so the drive is booting up here, hopefully. We're going to go to disk management, and this is using Windows. Alright, rescan the disks, and I can see the hard drive's data light flashing, so that's good, like it's going to show something up here. And of course this shows that we have drive errors. It may or may not mean that the drive is actually bad with Windows, but alright, so our drive showed up, so that is a good thing. Now let's run the HDD test, and 64-bit for my PC. Alright, it's going to boot up and it's going to check the hard drive, and it tests good. There's our hard drive right there. And the health of the drive is good, and it booted up just fine. Alright, so now that we know that our hard drive is good, now we're going to test our SATA cable, and this is the one that I have for testing. This is, I think, from an original Xbox One. The S model, the X model, and the original, they all use the same type of power and SATA cable setup, so you can use them across the board. So we're going to go ahead and plug this into the Xbox and power it on and see what it does. Now if this Xbox does turn on, then we know that we have a bad SATA connection to the board. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and power it on here. It should show up on this monitor if anything. Typically, if the Xbox is going to turn on, it will turn on almost immediately to the recovery screen, and in our case, it is not doing a single thing. So I'm going to power off this Xbox, and we're going to pull the motherboard out, and we're going to take a look at the redriver IC. Alright, now that we're here at the board, before we check the redriver IC, what I'd like to do is I would like to check the pins on the HDMI connector. Sometimes it's really difficult to tell, but they can actually be separated from the board, and like the pads will actually be ripped from the board, and that will be like 100% more than likely the issue. And from what I can tell right away, all these pins are solidly connected to the board, which is good because that points directly to our HDMI redriver chip. The TDP158, which is like probably one of the most common HDMI chip failures on the Xbox One. No. Since we have no video, we check the hard drive, we check the HDMI port. Usually, 99% of the time, it's going to be this chip right here. So I'm going to apply some flux. The flux that I'm using right here is Amtech 213. And I bought this flux off of northridgefix.com. The temperature we're going to use the hot air at will be 480 degrees Celsius at 120 for the airspeed, so basically almost max air max heat. And we're going to kick on the fume extractor here. Alright. We're going to put the heat basically directly over the chip. And it's always good to sometimes kind of move this heat around to just kind of distribute the heat evenly on the chip. I like to try to get up and close and personal with the chip, obviously without touching the board. Using flux when desoldering is always a better thing because it helps the solder to flow. Alright, the solder's just about flowed here all around the chip. We're just waiting for one side to completely flow here. It's just about there. Alright, pull the chip right off. Alright, so now that we have the chip off, I'm going to use my chisel tip on my Pace ADS 200. I'll apply a little bit more flux here to the area. This is always good to do while the board is still hot after you pull the chip off. Apply some flux there. Take some leaded solder and we're going to mix the leaded solder with the lead-free. And it should make a little bit of a difference when we go ahead and install this. There we go. We're going to take the solder here that we accidentally put there and we're going to kind of mix it up here. Just like that. Should work good. Alright. Now we're going to grab a new HDMI redriver chip. Got one right here in the package. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to actually put some more flux here down on the board right here in the center. And if you remember, the chip's dot is up here. It means pin number 1 is over here. And there's the dot right there. Alright, so we're going to put the chip generally in the correct spot here. We'll grab the hot air, approach the chip slowly here, hold the chip in position, or generally in position. There it goes, it's starting to take. That leaded solder is really going to help this chip flow right down to the board. You want to get up really nice and kind of flow this area. Sometimes I usually take my tweezers up with the nozzle and kind of help flow like that there. Okay. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to use my conical angled tip here, and we're going to solder and flow all of the joints here around the edge of this chip. We're going to take a little bit more flux here and put it around the chip here. It's going to help it flow a whole lot easier. Alright, add some solder here, and we're just going to flow around the chip here. Doing this while the chip is still hot is like crucial because it helps the solder flow on this top side here when the solder never likes to flow. And last side right here. Done. Alright, so let's go ahead and clean up the chip in this area. Alright, so I have my alcohol bottle here. I'm going to put some alcohol over the chip. This is IPA, isopropyl alcohol. Alright, we're just going to clean up the chip here. And this Amtech 213 seems to clean up a whole lot better than the 559, but yeah, I mean, it's not a huge difference, but the flux is good for some things and not good for other things. But let's go ahead and take a look at our joints here. They're looking super fresh, my friend. Super duper fresh. Let's see here. Super fresh joints here, all around the chip. There they are. All right. So our chip is soldered in good, and the board is looking not clean enough. All right. Now that the board has a brand new, fresh TDP 158 installed, we're going to go ahead and put the board back in the console and power it on and see if we have an image. Alright, so here's the Xbox ready to go, powered on, and let's see if we get an image on the screen. If the image shows up, it'll show up right here. Alright. There it is. And it's working. Could you have guessed that this TDP 158 would have been the problem? Yeah, that is like probably 99% of the failures with Xbox One X with no video. It's typically the HDMI port, the redriver chip, or the hard drive, more than likely. Sometimes it can be the hard drive SATA cable, sometimes it can be the HDMI booster chip. But I've never personally ran into an issue with the booster. As far as the hard drive SATA cable, I have seen that at least maybe 2 or 3 times throughout my career of fixing these. But yeah, it's all set. Alright, so before I go, I was thinking about doing a video about fake Amtech flux. So Northridge Fix made a comment on my YouTube channel in the community section, and he mentioned that the Amtex that I had just bought was fake, and funny enough, it actually was fake, and I thought I got it from a reputable source too. Unfortunately, you know, I got it on eBay. But anyways, I attempted to solder with some of it, and the results are crazy. So if you want to see legitimate Amtech 559 flux, I do have some. And then I have some fake stuff here. If you guys would like to see that video, you know, just let me know in the comments. And also, hopefully, when the parts finally do arrive, I do have a GeForce RTX 2060 that does not power on, and I think I found the problem with it. But I had to order the parts from China, so maybe in a month or so, when the parts actually show up, we can make that video and go from there. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys have an awesome week. I'll see you later.